Hello, this is Gary.
There he is. Hi, Gary. It's Susan.
How are you doing, Susan?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I am doing okay. I'm sitting in Hong Kong as we are dealing with the first typhoon of the season.
I saw
It's
that.
not so bad yet, but
Yeah.
I have a feeling it's gonna get worse as we get closer to the evening.
Yeah. What did they call that? They have the different colored flags or whatever it is.
No, that's for rain. This is a typhoon, and therefore there are different levels. So it goes from T1,
Oh,
which is
right.
a warning, to T3, to T8, to T9, to T10. And right now we are at a T8. So
That's
the expectation is that it is going to continue to get, the wind is going to pick up as we close in on midnight.
so. Do you feel comfortable talking from the office, or are you on your way home? What's your?
No, I'm already home
Oh,
to
good.
avoid the insane traffic because of the weather. So
Oh, good. Okay.
I'm comfortable. Yes.
Okay. So, just as a preamble, I have to tell you, I spent the last week, and I'm back here again at Shorenstein at Harvard.
Okay.
And this is going to be great. These guys are amazing, and they're
Okay. So tell me, yeah, tell me their thoughts. Tell me where their heads at.
yeah. Well, they're first of all, Nico Melli, who's the one who runs the place, is somebody that I think the two of you will really enjoy each other. He wrote a book, by the way. I don't know if you have time to read anything these days, but he wrote a book a couple of years ago called The End of Big. And it's about, I haven't gotten far enough into it yet to see whether he talks about dig. I should actually look in the index because it's a pretty well documented thing. Uh, but I know that he talks about Spotify a bit. But in any event, he's a big thinker. He really looks at journalism from a very deep perspective, and he's very excited about this. He's lived in China, so. He has a personal interest in it as well as really wanting to see you succeed at this. So we're in a pretty interesting spot. So right now, we've actually listened to some of the content that I've already put together just to get a sense of what's happened so far. And I would say that the general feeling is that this really could be a world class discussion, and that you're on top of something that's really very, very exciting. The one thing that he commented on that I've already thought about and wanted to talk to you about is that he said, you need to tell Gary he needs to do less self-editing on this. Get him to be more conversational, because we can always fix stuff that's not right, but we need him to really speak more candidly, so that, or
Okay.
at least it feels more candid. So that, I thought that was good advice. Um,
That is very good advice.
yeah, it's funny because as I was listening to some of them in the beginning, I thought, God, that's the perfect kind of attitude to have on that earlier kind of thing that you and I did, which is one conversation and you're really trying to to create a picture. But in this one, it's supposed to be chronicling what you're going through. So we need it to be a little more candid. The other
Okay.
thing he suggested, which I was thinking about to suggest to you anyway, is rather than trying to carve out pieces of your day for long stretches at a time, is that rather you and I have a weekly check-in of say 15 minutes in which we can pick up quickly on what's happening from your perspective, and meanwhile I'm doing my other stuff with the other people that I'm interviewing, but that I have a
I like
really
that.
regular. Do you like that? So I'll set that up with Julia whatever time, or maybe when it's best to grab you for that, so that we can be pretty religious about it. Is it better in
Yeah,
the
I
morning?
would. I would let Julia know that we've had this conversation,
Mm-hmm.
and that what our goal is to have a regular time, either the start of the week or the end of the week, and the intent is for us to just put stuff down on tape and effectively do a one-on-one catch up on a weekly basis. Even if I am traveling or you're traveling,
Perfect.
if if we can get on the phone and even record over the phone, that could be helpful.
That's great. So I have a bunch of stuff to catch up with you on, since you and I have not really talked since I last saw you as Josiah was going out the door.
Right.
So if you can give me just your quick reads on some of these so that I know what's important enough to catch up on more later, and that is, it sounded to me, since I was standing there for a while, that board meeting went well.
Yes, it did go well. And so what we should definitely catch up on, because now the strategy and the plan, or I'll put it this way, we presented a 3-year strategy, and the intent was to get the 1-year plan and 1-year budget signed off for that 3-year strategy. And we got all the major pieces signed off by the board. And so it's time for us to sit down. And I actually don't know how we do this, because boy, that 3-year strategy is really, really, it takes a long time to walk through. But it is very logical and sequential, where we effectively work backwards from research. Well, I guess it would be forwards, from understanding our current user base, the marketplace, our future marketplaces that we want to address, the user needs in those marketplaces, all the way through to the products that we need to build, and therefore the restructuring of the organization that we need. So I'm happy if you figure out a way, if you think through how best to get the main key points of the strategy down on paper or down on tape, and very specifically discuss what now until March 2018 the company is trying to achieve, and we can effectively, I think talking through that will be very, very important.
Yeah. You did a set of slides for that, didn't you?
I did a very long set of slides, yes.
Yeah, so that it probably wouldn't help if I just sat and studied those so knew better. Maybe it's just better to get your top of head outline of all of them. And yeah, I think that should be, we could, okay, let me think about how to attack that. So
yeah, I think the latter. Yeah, I think the latter, and sitting down, and even if it takes a couple of sessions, and you might have to be patient with me, but I think that's probably still the best.
Yeah, I do too. Okay, so maybe that's when so you're going to Italy to do that thing, and that's
right.
Next week, right?
Yes, that's next week.
And then, are you doing anything else in Europe? What are you doing besides that? Are you coming right back?
I'm not. Well, I'm taking a couple of meetings, but it is really, it's for the conference, the Italy Forum.
Okay. So after that, are you in Hong Kong? Because they had told me June was not so good.
I am back in I'm back in Hong Kong for, let's see here, I think 3 straight weeks. So the week of June 26th, and the week of July 3rd and July 10th. And then I am gone for 2 weeks, and you will not actually be able to find me for those 2 weeks, because it's.
I hope you're going on vacation.
I am actually going on vacation. It's Katrina and my 10-year anniversary, so I'm taking 2 full weeks completely off the grid.
Oh, that's
for that.
Super. And when do you leave for that? At the end of the week of the 10th?
I leave July, effectively the evening of July 15th. July 14th.
Okay. Oh, that's so great.
And then I'm gone until my first day back in the office after that is July 31st.
Okay, so it sounds like what I ought to do is if I can, get my Batukers there end of June, and be able to catch you then before you leave. That'll give us a couple
3 straight weeks.
Okay, that's what I'll aim for. Okay.
And by the way, that week of July 10, Rise Conference is in Hong Kong, July 11th, 12th, 13th. And Joe and I are on stage on July 11th at Rise together for half an hour. It's the first time the two of us have appeared together in public to effectively be interviewed by, and we're not sure who yet, but by the conference is choosing a credible third-party journalist.
Moderator. Oh, that's so fabulous! This is great.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do I get to that?
So you should work with Benson, and Benson will probably be able to rustle you up a pass to be able to be in the crowd for that.
Okay.
And July 12th, I'm also doing another forum discussion at Rise with a couple of other folks about fake news. And
super.
So you should come for a couple of weeks, end of June into the first 2 weeks of July, and then make sure that you stay through that last week that I'm here, because Rise is going on.
Oh, that's just great. And how cool that's going to be. I liked him immensely just meeting him for 1 minute. He's obviously. Now, what was the name of his assistant that you pointed out to me over there? Because I suppose that's who I should talk to, and maybe I don't even make an effort to do that until after I've heard you two guys. But the young
Kenny Ho. Kenny Ho is Joe's chief of staff.
Okay.
And so I'm happy. Did he didn't give you his card, I assume, since you're asking me?
You mean Kenny Ho?
Kenny.
He did not, but if things were pretty rushed, I think he would have. I mean, he was quite congenial. So yeah, that would be great if you could set that. Just say she's going to contact you or something. Yeah,
I will let him know. I mean, he knows. He remembers that meeting well. So if you reach out to him, it's kenny.ho@alibaba-inc.com. The normal, but it's I think that's the email address.
Okay, but I'm going to wait for you to mention it to him.
Okay, I will. How about this? I will make the intro.
Okay, cool. And did you say it's Kenny Ho without it as one word at Alibaba.com?
I think it's Kenny.ho and it's Alibaba-inc.com.
Oh, right. Okay.
Intro, Susan.
Got it.
To Kenny.
You must be psyched because I get you really thought that was going to be an hour-long meeting, and it looked like he was.
I'm very excited that the board is so bought into our vision of what the South China Morning Post should and can become. Mm-hmm. So it's very, very encouraging. And I'm also extremely happy with the way that the executive team came together to put together what I believe is the most comprehensive company plan that I've seen. And based on what my board said to me is the most comprehensive company plan of any Alibaba company that they've seen, which is from people like Joe Tsai and Maggie Wu.
That's huge.
An astounding comment. And I'm not sure that they needed to exaggerate there. So I think the most exciting thing, Susan, is the validation of our vision as a company, but more importantly, it was a validation for my senior executive team of how good they are, because that plan came together because of them. Right now, it's certainly with my assistance and guidance, and my strategy team, and you've met, did a phenomenal job of crafting the narrative. But the reality is that this is their plan as much as it is mine. And so I think for them to know that they are good is really, really going to be important, because that conviction and confidence that comes with an Alibaba board saying, damn, you guys are good, that will actually give us the fuel to get through some pretty tough times that we should expect.
Big challenges
over the course of the next few years of transformation.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Just a couple other quick questions about stuff you've done in the interim. So the INMA thing, the conference.
Yes.
I take it mostly you did your thing and then you were doing other stuff outside.
That's right. There was a lot of other stuff. Yeah.
Anything in those meetings as to who or what happened that I should know?
There are. Let me work through. I actually, to be very honest, haven't even had the time to work through my notes from those meetings. Uh-huh. I would say this: if there are two organizations that at some point I'm going to ask Benson to gently figure out if it would be okay for you to meet these folks and ask them and get them on tape to talk about the South China Morning Post story.
Good.
It would be somebody senior at the Asia Society, and then it would be somebody at the National Committee of U.S.-China Relations. Now, these two we have to be careful about, and careful meaning, and I'm being protective here.
Yeah.
And I'll be very honest with you, I'm being protective because these two organizations are extremely important for our ability to actually enter into the U.S. marketplace with credibility, and we are getting to know them. I'm just getting to know the senior level folks there. I am hoping to build a relationship of trust with them. So for us to reach out and say, hey, we have somebody working with us to put down the story and the narrative, we want to make sure that it is communicated correctly, that they understand our intent, that this is not some crazy PR marketing play, but it is that we believe that this moment in history is necessary to be captured. And I'm sure that you'll be able to communicate that very, very well. But I do want to talk with Benson and Josh and Heather to make sure that everyone feels confident before we make those intros. So I hope that you can be patient with us.
Oh, sure. Now, when you were there, did you by any chance meet Lulu Wang?
No, I did not.
You know, she used to be the person who ran it some time ago, and still I think sits on the board.
Yes, you're talking about Asia Society, right? Yeah.
Yeah. She's actually a friend.
Okay.
And
so
I'm not going to say anything to her about. I think she might have heard about this from somebody else because she took me to the C100 conference one year when it was in San Francisco, and that's when I first met. But he wouldn't remember Jack Ma.
Okay.
She's a player, and she's the one who introduced me to Ronnie Chan. You know, who's the chair in Hong Kong.
Of course.
So, I think that would be important, and I'll just wait for you guys. But yeah, tell Benson I'm not unknown there. I do know the guy.
That's great.
Who's I think I forget his name though. I've met with him about my other podcast, like a year and a half ago. So that's cool. I don't know anybody at the other one, the U.S.-China Relations Group. I don't know them.
As prep work for you, Susan, I would become at least academically familiar with the National Committee of U.S.-China Relations, because it is arguably the most important. I'll just straight up say that it is the most important policy machine and effectively, independent consultancy on U.S.-China relations.
And are they in Washington or are they in New York?
They are based in New York City.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
They've been around for 50 years.
Okay, that's great. Okay, and then how about in D.C.? Who'd you meet with there? Did you talk to the Washington Post?
Yeah, I spent some time with the Washington Post, but that was tactical. That was about technology.
Okay.
And spent a little bit of time with the Reuters bureau there. Again, that was just a meet and greet. One interesting person potentially for you to speak to. Again, let me slowly build that relationship first. But at some point, Marcus Broccoli, who is he now runs North Base Media, which is a media venture capital firm, or a venture capital firm that specializes in investing in media companies. But more importantly, he was the editor-in-chief of the Wall Street Journal and then the editor-in-chief of the Washington Post. But somebody who has also lived and worked out of Asia and Beijing for a number of years, and really understands how difficult it is to tell the China story with what we deem to be Western journalistic ethics. And so, or to tell it properly, and has already become a strong advocate for what we're trying to get done.
Oh, that's super. There's a guy named Bill Kirby who's kind of the China guru here at Harvard, if there is one person you could say is, because they got a bunch of them. And I did meet with him, and I must say he was less sanguine. I also do you know him?
I was going to suggest that. I was going to suggest that he would be less sanguine, because Bill Kirby, as a China expert, his reputation very much is that he's a China expert in that he is a massive Beijing cynic. And so he attributes anything within even a suggestible orbit of Beijing as bad for social good. Anyway, but
and I think
not surprising.
I think he has turf to protect. It's one of these academic. He has a stake in the ground now, and so that's what he gets called about. That's my sense. He's actually in China again right now, but he got to know my husband in this ALI thing, so he spent some time with me, and I kind of liked the fact that he played such a cynical role, because that's helpful to us when we then can counter that with somebody who really gets it and has apparently the perspective of what you're telling me, this Marcos. What a fascinating last name. It doesn't spell like Is it B R O
No,
C
no, no.
K L Y?
It's not. No, it's not spelled like the vegetable.
Broccoli, like BROCKLY or something. I'll check it out.
No, it's AU.
Oh, okay.
AUCHLI.
Okay, great. I'll check that out. He sounds fabulous. That's great.
Yeah.
The meeting in Italy, do you have a sense of what you're going to try to have happen there? Do you know yet you do know who the moderator is. It's, what's his name? You told me already. Rose.
It's Zany.
Rose,
it's
right?
the, no. No, not for my panel. It is not. It is the editor-in-chief of The Economist.
Oh, that's great. Isn't it great? I would think
it is
great. Yeah. Okay, super. You're still not going to let me talk to Katrina when I come, right?
I will continue to work on that for you. I promise. I will continue to have that conversation.
You said you seem to have some misgivings about it. It's not about me, is it?
No. It's not about you. But here's the thing. Here are my misgivings, and I think I've made this pretty clear up front. Susan, I want this to be. I believe that the story of the South China Morning Post is worthwhile to capture, and I also understand that I'm a part of that story. But I am, how should I put this? I'm skeptical that the story would be properly framed if I become too central to its narrative. I am a piece of it, as a lot of our other executives are. And I know that, of course, my hiring is a signal of X, Y, and Z. But I still I don't think I'm central. I'm a piece of it. And so bringing my wife into the picture makes it feel like if the story is suddenly about the South China Morning Post and Gary Liu on the same level, 1A, 1B. And I don't think that should be what the priority is. Right? I don't think that that's how we should order it. It should be, this is the narrative of the South China Morning Post going through transformation.
Okay,
a part of which is, you get what I'm saying?
Yep, I do, and I respect it. I think that's an interesting approach, and let's leave it there, at least at the moment. Josh and Heather, is there a reason that I should get together with them in New York? It sounds like they're doing great stuff for you, certainly in terms of the contacts. I don't want to waste their time or mine, but I thought I should.
I think you should get together with them just to continue to build, again, a relationship of trust. I don't think, and in fact, I want to make sure that they're not on tape because you're from the industry. We will hamstrung their ability to be good PR people if somehow they become part of the story. So please do feel free to reach out, go grab dinner, grab coffee, get to know them even more because at the end of the day, when it comes to distribution and what we make of the final product, it will be them who they're representing the South China Morning Post in that relationship with you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. I'll make that effort. I'm going to be back there at the end of this week, so I'll have Laura set something up for when they can do it, and then I'll aim to come around the time that we talked about. I think that will be good. So. Give me one thing that's happened between your board meeting and now that you think is especially interesting that we should make sure is a piece of this narrative.
That is especially interesting.
You know what I mean? So that I'm
board meeting and now. Okay, I will say that we had a closed door breakfast with the Asian Society in New York City while I was in town. And it was Tom Nagorski, Overshell, Josie, I forgot her name, who's the president of the Asian Society, and a number of their senior staff and a couple of their members. And we were very, very frank and honest about what we're doing at the South China Morning Post and why we believe it's important for us to exist alongside of Western press. A couple of the interesting people that were there were actually the editors of China File, who... and I'm sure that you're familiar with China File, but they do a series of, they do these things called conversations, where they pick a topic and they invite a bunch of folks who are academics and journalists alike to write their opinions on something to do with China. and they collate them into a single product. And they've done one in the past about Alibaba's acquisition of South China Morning Post, and it now stands because China File has that credibility. It now stands as on the internet as a definitive article about, or definitive opinion about what the acquisition meant for the independence and the integrity of the South China Morning Post. And the conversation itself is actually, it's largely negative. Is that it's mostly cynics and skeptics that effectively anticipating and expecting the South China Morning Post to lose all credibility and to not be able to operate independently. Regardless, the editors were there, and they pushed me and Chong Yen on very specific things, and they questioned. Sorry, Susan.
Yeah.
And they questioned our and I'm probably putting words in their mouth, but our idealistic, and they would probably say naive expectation that we will be able to continue to report on China objectively. But I do believe that we started the process of convincing them that that our paper has that backbone and conviction that regardless of whether or not China gives us umbrage, we will be able to do the right thing. So I think that's the start of a process. And again, this is why if we're able to build enough of a relationship of trust with Asia Society and introduce you to these folks, I'm sure you could get some very interesting opinion from them. But this is another major reason why I want to be so careful.
Yeah, I get it.
Because now, I don't want them to misinterpret.
I get it. Didn't Tom, wasn't he the one behind that whole China File thing? Wasn't he part of that?
Yeah, Tom is extremely important to Asia Society in general. But yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Tom was technically moderating the conversation. He was sitting right next to me, and we had a great conversation. My expectation is that in October, when I go back to New York, I'm going to offer that this is what they want. And I think that we're likely going to do effectively the same kind of conversation, but in an open forum where they can invite anyone who's interested.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I've actually had lunch with him, and he's a good guy and very smart, very practical. That's great. It sounds like you're doing all the right stuff there. And how does that all fit into, although they're somewhat autonomous, with the Asia Society in Hong Kong?
That's a very good question. I actually, shockingly, have not spent any time with the Asia Society here in Hong Kong. So we have to figure that out. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how Asia Society.
You can wait probably because, once again, as you said, your focus is ultimately the West, and I think that Ronnie Chan is right now probably among the skeptics, but there's probably more value in having you guys being lauded as the most, this story that you're now in the place of being able to start to convince them of what this could be and remove it from the place of naivete. Might be better to wait and have them brag about you than trying to do, make a relationship yourself. That's just my gut. And you don't need it right now.
Yeah, I mean, Asia Society has reached out to me a few times to make an appearance there, and I literally haven't had time. Ronnie and I have had a bunch of opportunities where we're supposed to have met, but we have been effectively star-crossed lovers. And so at some point, Sue, Ronnie and I will meet, and I'm sure we'll have great conversation there. And so I'm not, and like you said, in no rush, and we'll let it organically develop.
Yeah, he's got the whole Harvard connection is pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, this is great. Okay, good. That's good to hear. Okay, let me look at my notes after all of this. I'll let you know when I can be there, and I'll set it up with Julia so that you're going to mention to her the thing with our weekly call, and let's start so that next week we have one. Does that work for you?
Yeah, I would say I will feel free to reach out whenever.
Okay.
and to her, and I'll just ping her and let her know that you and I chatted.
Okay, cool. Anything else you want me to know?
I think that's it.
Okay. Well, stay safe and dry.
We will do our best. I have a feeling that we'll be just fine.
Okay. Okay. Thanks a lot, Gary. This is great.
Thank you, Susan.
Bye.
Chat soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.